Do you wish you knew more about investing and financial planning at an earlier age or young adulthood? I think most do. Well, that's the topic for today's video. My name's Joe Conroy with Harford Retirement Planners, so let's just jump right into it. Personal finance is one of those taboos that just really isn't openly discussed. And I think a lot of parents want their kids to be better with money or know more about money than when they were growing up. But to be quite frank, a lot of adults really just still don't know a whole lot about financial planning, and it's difficult to give advice to kids when it's not a topic you're super familiar with. So this video is meant for the high school, college graduates, or maybe somebody that graduated just a few years ago and is beginning their career and their investing career. Now, before I get into too much of that, I just want to pause and talk to clients for a second. I know we just had tax season. It wrapped up, thank goodness. If you have any questions on your taxes, this is a great opportunity for us to meet, maybe bring in your CPA or your accountant and do a tax debrief, where we look at your taxes. If they didn't go the way that you expected them to, what can we do now to make sure there's no surprises this time next year? So please reach out to us if you're interested in that tax debrief meeting. We would be happy to coordinate with your tax professionals. All right, back to the matter at hand, and that is Financial Planning 101 for young adults. First, we're going to talk about investing, because I know investments in the stock market's in the headlines, tariffs, the market downturn, is there a recession? So how do we look at investing at a young age? I do have a couple of slides with some data to show you to hopefully ease the concerns you may have with your long-term investment. And if you're in your 20s or 30s, I could also make an argument up until your 70s or 80s, you got a long time horizon, 10 years plus. So let's look into some charts that'll help make sense of this crazy world and investments and how it fits together. So if you're new to investing, you might see what's going on, and especially if you're one of the younger millennials, or I guess it's older Gen Z, you might think, why would I want to invest? We just had COVID where the market dropped 35% in 2022. Inflation went up, the market went down, and now we're dealing with tariffs just a couple of short years later. It has been frustrating. Should we get out of the market? That's what a lot of younger people are thinking as they're entering into the 401k earning years is, should I go to cash? I don't know. Stocks seem kind of risky. Take a look at this chart. So this is a hypothetical $1,000 investment in the S&P 500 index. And again, the S&P 500 is the 500 largest US stocks that are publicly traded. And if you kept it completely invested starting January of 2015 up until the end of 2024, your $1,000 investment invested in this index would have grown to $2,869. Now, if the market headlines are scaring you and you get out of the market, but you happen to miss the 10 best days in the market, which usually follow the worst periods in the market. For example, just recently, there's been some 1,000-point down days, but 1 or 2 short days later, there's a 1,000-point rebound. We don't know when the market's going to drop 1,000 points. We don't know when it's going to rebound 1,000 points. But if you miss the 10 best days over that 10-year time frame, your returns go from close to $3,000 down to just over $1,500. If you miss the 20 best days, your returns are even worse. And if you look at the chart, you can see it doesn't go any better if you miss the 30 or 40 best days in the market. So what does this mean? This means that when the markets are very volatile, your instincts will tell you to get out of it, right? Avoid pain. If the stove is hot, don't touch it. Take your hand off of it. The market works a little bit different, and if you get the timing wrong and try to get out and miss some of those rebound days, it could significantly affect your returns, but not in a good way. So let's go to one more chart, and why are we investing in the market anyway, right? So let me show you what the long-term approach is, and it's something that I wish was discussed more in the media, but isn't, and I'm glad to show it to you here right now. So here's another chart, the last one in this video, I promise, but I picked the 2 most important charts, in my opinion, for young investors to see. This chart is the same S&P 500, but it goes back to 1970 all the way through to the end of 2024. Now, you don't need a finance degree to see that the blue line goes all the way up. $10,000 hypothetically invested in 1970 grew to close to $3 million if left untouched at the end of 2024. What are these headlines? These are all the scary headlines that we saw at the time. So, for example, Hurricane Katrina, the 9/11 attacks. Goes back Black Monday where the market dropped 20% in one day. What this means, and you see there's a lot of those different scary headlines, there will always be scary headlines. There's always a reason to not feel excited about investing. But there is one overpowering reason why we stay invested, and that is the compounding nature of investments over time. It's not timing the market, it's time in the market that leads to such great investment success. So if along this investing journey you did not panic at whatever the scary headline of the day was and kept your money invested, you could see just how powerful the stock market can be in your journey to increasing your net worth and ultimately increasing your freedom, right? Because I think that's what most people view money as, is the ability to do things you want to do with the people that you want to do them with. Make memories with loved ones, start a family, experience life to the fullest, not just who's going to die with the biggest net worth. That's not really what it's about. We need a balance. So keeping your money invested despite the investment scary headlines and different events that go on, and the market does drop from time to time, but we don't panic and we get the returns and the results of sticking with it. In fact, if you're younger and investing, a market downturn is a gift. Those shares that you could buy for, say, $10 a share, if you can buy them for $9 or $8, you get to buy more shares with the same dollars that you're contributing. That will increase your returns over time, and market downturns at a younger age should be embraced, not shied away from. All right, so we covered some investing charts and basics. What I'm going to talk about now is a little bit more of a holistic financial planning approach. These are some topics I wrote about in my book. If you are a client or you know a client of mine, maybe you want a couple copies to give to a niece, a nephew, a child that's graduating, email us. We'd be happy to send you a copy for free. If we don't have a personal connection, this book is available on Amazon, but that's not what this video is about. Let's go right into some of the topics that we cover in the chapter for our 20s. First topic is how to build your career capital early. So if you've just graduated or you're in the first couple of years of your career, your income's probably not what you'd like to see it in the future, but you have your asset that is most valuable is your potential earnings income. And it is very important not to neglect the potential and invest in your career. So what does that mean? Network, network, network. Build your network. The more people you know, the more opportunities that may come your way. So putting yourself out there and having coffee, finding mentors, just reaching out to people and being a sponge and absorbing as much information as you can, those are all investments in your career that will pay many, many dividends over the decades to come. Another thing is, I know folks get really fixated on salary. And yes, that is a very important part of any job, but it isn't the complete picture. We want to take a look at things like, what's the growth potential? What skills are you learning? Is this a stepping stone to the next thing in your career that you're interested in? It's important to weigh all of the factors. I can tell you from personal experience, I started as an assistant in this business and I did not make very good money. Enough, but not certainly what I was hoping to earn for the rest of my life. But I view it more as an apprenticeship than an assistant, beginning career job. I was able to come into this business and just learn everything I possibly could about it, and all of that knowledge that I was able to accumulate has helped me get to a point, grow my career to where it is now. Am I done growing my career? No, I don't think anybody that's working, even if you're in your 50s and 60s, you should stop growing your career or growing your skills, but it is even more important, and you've got a lot more years ahead of you early in life for those skills and networking and learning to benefit you later on. Topic number 2 is the importance of saving. Numbers are very finite, right? It's very simple. If you spend everything you make, you will not have any money left over. In fact, a lot of people watching this are probably spending more money they make, and then they get frustrated when they see the credit card bill gets bigger and bigger each month, and they can't pay it off. What do we do? When we're just getting started, we're probably making the least amount of money than we are in the rest of our careers. It doesn't seem like we're doing a whole lot if we're only able to put $50 or $100 a month into something. Don't think about how much that $100 will grow into, although the number can surprise you based on what we saw from that mountain chart. What's more important is the habits. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. How do you build a large net worth? It's just getting the habits and then compounding over time. So don't worry about how much money and feel like it's not moving the needle very much and you only have X amount of dollars to put in each month. It's that habit. And once you get a good habit started, you can improve upon it later. But it's important to do that now, because if you don't do it in your 20s or 30s, it is infinitely harder to do in your 30s, 40s, 50s. Life only gets more expensive. Folks that are a little bit older watching this are probably nodding in agreement. So how do we get started with this investing thing? Of course, you could talk to a financial advisor, but you could do it on your own. You could even do it through your 401k. In fact, that's probably one of the biggest wealth building tools that you can start in your career, is contributing to a 401k. Yes, there's tax benefits to it. Huge benefit is you get a company match if your organization offers that. That's free money. If you're like 99.9% of the population, we don't walk around all day thinking about, did I save this money and I got to put something left over. Making it automatic. The 401k is automatic. That's the power of it. Besides the tax benefits and the other things that I mentioned, it's the fact that it creates a habit that you don't think about. It's money that goes into investments before you get a chance to spend it. Now, you can do that with accounts outside of a 401k, something like just a regular taxable investment account. And that could be money used for a house purchase, an early retirement, an emergency fund. It's kind of like a Swiss Army knife. It's got a little something for everything. But it's important to save it before you can spend it. Because even the most savvy financial advisors out there, we're all human. It's easy to spend money. Marketing and the algorithms and technology and AI, it makes it very easy for us to click that button, have a package show up on our doorstep the next morning. Save it before you get a chance to spend it. Then, if you're saving your money before you spend it, you can spend whatever's left over guilt-free. The next topic I want to discuss is expect the unexpected. That means is there's always going to be something that kind of happens that we don't expect. If we go out, we try to create a budget, and we think in a perfect month, this is what it's going to look like. There are no perfect months. There's always the nail that you catch in the tire and you got to replace it for a couple $100. The security deposit on an apartment that you didn't quite think, but you need a place to live. And whatever the unexpected financial surprise, they're usually not fun ones, and you need to have money set aside for it. So as you are going through your budget, make sure you have an emergency savings account that you can draw from, and also be very realistic with your expectations for your budget and bake in the unknowns. That's what that savings account for. I call it kind of a lumpy spending account. It's not every month you're going to have to change your tires out, hopefully, but there will be something every month, and that needs to be baked into the budget and expected. Another important topic, let's be realistic. We got to treat ourselves once in a while. I'm not the guy that says don't go to Starbucks, right? If Starbucks brings you happiness, go get your Starbucks. But just make sure it fits with all the rest of the stuff. Maybe if you're going and treating yourself with one thing, you balance that out with somewhere else. But I wrote in the book, I came across a picture, and it was The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, the actor, famous. He's very physically in shape. And to be at his age and the shape that he's in, it takes a lot of dedication. But even The Rock has cheat days. And he'll eat like 3 dozen cookies, 2 dozen pancakes. I mean, there's pictures, if you Google it, of him with this mound of food. To be in a good financial plan, it's got to be sustainable. And no one's a robot. You can't just save. You got to treat yourself. So bake in rewards. Maybe you accomplish a goal. You get a new job. Do something within your means to treat yourself, right? You got to be realistic. This whole life thing, as best I can figure it, is all about balance. Somewhere in the middle is where we want to be. So don't be afraid to have your, quote, cheat days, as The Rock has. Whatever that means for you financially, just make sure that you're realistic with it, but don't deny yourself. It's why we work so hard. Every once in a while, you got to have a little bit of a cheat day. And another important topic, and this might ruffle the feathers of some of the older folks watching, renting is not throwing money away. We see more and more younger people renting, partly by default because they have to. Housing has gotten so expensive. It's hard to get mortgages, and the interest rates are high. When you're young in your career, your flexibility is an amazing asset. And if you buy a home early and you're not really sure what your career is going to look like or where you're going to land, that kind of locks you in. It would be a real shame if you buy a home because you think that's just what you're supposed to do, but career opportunities pop up a couple of states away or even a couple of hours away, and you have to turn them down because you have this mortgage and this obligation. I'm not saying that buying a house is a terrible investment, but what I am saying is that renting might not be such a bad investment too. That flexibility early in life could lead you different paths that are very lucrative that you wouldn't have had if you weren't as flexible and able to take those opportunities as they present themselves. The final major point I'd like to make is financial planning doesn't have a deadline, right? If you're graduating, maybe you had papers due or it's finals week and you knew you had to have things sorted out and settled and studied by a certain date. Financial planning doesn't have a deadline. You can start right as you get out of school. You could wake up one day in your 60s and say, hey, maybe I should think about retirement. You don't want to be that last one that I mentioned. If you start now, you will be the clients I talk to on a daily basis that are ahead of the game. You could retire 10, 15, maybe 20 years earlier than your peers. I've seen it. I've helped people do it. If you wait all you're doing is kicking that can down the road and creating a bigger hurdle to get over for the future. All right, so in summary, and I hope I don't sound like one of your uncles or your dad or one of those, in my head, I'm still 25, but I know that's not really the reality of it. But anyway, in summary, I'll go through the three kind of main topics. Create good habits, create them now, and be realistic about what those are. If you have it automated, you get paid, X amount of dollars goes to savings, your 401k gets funded, and you put a little money in some type of investment account, you are head and shoulders above people your age group. Create those good habits now, and then continue to build upon them as your income grows and you get more experience. Second thing is, earlier in life, invest in yourself, invest in your skills, and invest in your network. The more people you have in your corner rooting for your success, the more success you're going to have. But that only happens if you're intentional about it. You can't sit back and wait for someone to ask you to go to coffee. You need to be on the offensive. If somebody reached out to me and said, Joe, would you have a cup of coffee? I'd love to talk about your career path and learn more about you. I would say absolutely. I think most people would. The third and final point's more of a philosophical one than anything. Give yourself grace. We're all human. We don't have it all figured out. You might see people that think they have it figured out, and I can tell you they don't. We're all trying to figure it out as we go. Do the best you know how to do. Ask for help along the way, and that will get you so far. Pride doesn't get you a bigger net worth. And if anything, it probably gets you less money because you're afraid to ask questions that you probably should ask. So give yourself some grace, do the best you can do, and improve it as you go. That's all we can ask for. So if you'd like clients, if you're still watching, a tax debrief meeting, please reach out. If you want a copy of this book, of course it's on Amazon. If we know each other, reach out. Don't be shy. Like I said, ask for help. I'd be happy to send this to a recent college grad or you to give to a recent college grad. This book's been very helpful to many people, which brings me great satisfaction and enjoyment. I would love to continue that and help the next generation of investors.